Welcome to Resilience Unravelled. Hi everybody and welcome to Resilience Unravelled, a podcast that examines all aspects of personal and organisational resilience. A huge all-encompassing subject that covers the ability to thrive in life by harnessing your cognitive, emotional, physiological and contextual abilities. I share stories from people who have thrived despite remarkable obstacles, as well as highly successful practitioners and experts across a range of topics. And this podcast introduces their amazing stories and expertise, as well as my own reflections, perspectives, strategies and tips, which come from my own synthesis of themes and trends from wider learning. You can go to qedod.com/extras to access offers, tools and resources, including free articles and ebooks. For those of you that would be interested in supporting our work and contributing more proactively, you can find our new Patreon page at patreon.com. Then search for Resilience Space Unravelled. So, let's get started. Enjoy the show. Hi everybody and welcome again to Resilience Unravelled. Every now and then there's a guest I'm particularly looking forward to talking to, and one of those guests is today. Kierra is with us in the building. Hi Amber, how are you?
Hello, I am so excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me to be a guest on your show.
Oh, it's our pleasure, it really is. And I can tell by your accent that you're not from these Fair Isles, but somewhere else, across a pond, in another world, in another time zone. So where are you in the world?
That's right. I am in California in the United States.
So there you go. It's now and I don't like you anymore. You know, you're sitting in the Sunshine State, drinking orange juice, having a lovely time, and then not having any fires outside. That would be a good thing. You've gone through some real problems in California recently, haven't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So it's just we try and keep ourselves pretty grounded, but we are a people that like to have a good time. So those trials have been quite challenging for us.
It's a good test of resilience.
Yes.
So okay then, Amber, well, how would you describe what it is you do?
I am an adversity coach and speaker. So through speaking on stages and my absolutely favorite thing, which is one-on-one coaching, I get to really use my story, my gifts, and my skills to transform leaders into bold world changers and to help people really align their vision with their reality. It's powerful work and I absolutely love it.
That sounds fantastic. And I obviously know a bit about your story. So why don't you tell us how you came to be doing what you're doing?
Absolutely. So I actually am legally blind. I lost 90% of my visual field throughout childhood. And that all started when I was probably about 2 years old. I'm a twin. So my parents had two babies at the same time, so they always had one to compare the other to, which was helpful in this particular case because they noticed some things about the way I would respond to a lot of visual concepts just wasn't exactly the same as my twin brother. And after a lot of poking and prodding and doctor's appointments, as you can imagine, I got diagnosed with a degenerative eye condition called retinitis pigmentosa. I cannot spell that, so don't ask me to spell that, Russell.
I can. It's on your website.
Oh my goodness, I can't spell it if I tried.
So what is that condition? You say it's a degenerative condition, but what is it? What happens?
Absolutely. So degenerative, meaning that I lost my eyesight at an undetermined, rate and time. Yeah. And that eye condition, the way it really manifested itself in my particular case was that my eyesight started to decrease from the outside going in. So right. at this particular point, I don't have any peripheral vision, which is what people see like on the outsides, up, down, to the left and right. I have only a little tiny percent of central vision. And so we like to kind of, just for quick reference, call that tunnel vision.
Yes.
So if you could just imagine looking through a straw, what that would be like, that's pretty much all I can see is through a tiny little field of vision right in the center of my eyesight.
That is, I mean, it's one of my real fears, losing my sight. And I can't imagine how, I know you don't know any different. And people say that, oh, you were a child, you wouldn't know any different. How would you know what you never had? But I mean, what was that like, just growing up in a sighted world where everything's, and of course you didn't lose your sight at an older age, you lost it young. So I'm guessing there are tons of experiences that you've just never really had. I mean, that must be frightening.
Well, one thing, that I can remember is just the differences in my eyesight from year to year. So I can remember specific moments where I was in school and we had, like a school reading program, and we had similar books from grade to grade. And I can remember, one year being able to read that font just fine, and then the next school year coming back and not being able to see the print at all. So just noticing those changes in my eyesight, but still having to learn all the things that you have to learn when you're a child and growing up was very challenging. And I must say, looking back, I can see that added layer of stress that it put on me as a kid, growing up, because, kids have fun, but they're also learning a whole lot at once. And they learn a lot of those things visually. They watch mom and dad do something. They watch their siblings do something. They watch their teacher do something and they copy that. And so having to figure out a way to do those things as a kid was very challenging, which has created this really advanced level. Resiliency really is my superpower, and it's something that I get to teach on stages and through one-on-one coaching. And what really has made me a great coach was having those specific experiences that have taught me to thrive in the midst of adversity. How can I show up and be my best self and live the life that I'm called to be, even though I am facing this extreme adversity that is not going anywhere? Because Russell, the truth is that I could wake up tomorrow and lose the rest of my eyesight that I have today.
And I can't imagine what it's like to live with that, but you've got to give a shout out to your parents, because of course your bit, but of course they've got their bit as well. And as someone who's gone through this process yourself, I mean, your parents will have made mistakes and they've got a lot of things right, and they would regret some things they did. Do you have a bit of advice for any other parent that has someone with a similar condition or any sort of major sight issues? Do you have any advice for parents of children like that?
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And this is going to apply for parents who are facing, any type of adversity. That could be a disability, that could be an eating disorder, that could be maybe your child just doesn't want to do their homework. That could be for anything, really. But it's going to be challenging, but really getting through those moments and being committed. So, I told this story on a podcast the other day about how my parents were committed to me learning how to clean and to care for myself well, even though I couldn't see. So I give the example of me learning to wash dishes for the first time. My twin brother and I would take turns. So one night he would wash dishes, another night it would be my turn. And so I remember, I didn't really perceive and understand that my eyes didn't function in the same way that other people's eyes did. So I was trying to wash the dishes visually, and if it looked okay to me that the dish was clean, then that meant it was clean, which was not the truth, because my eyes didn't work the same, that they didn't function in the way that would be able to tell me that information. And so I remember time and time again being called back into the kitchen over and over. And this is after a late night. Both my parents had full-time jobs. They come home, they help with homework, they cook dinner, they clean up a little bit after dinner. They take showers. So this is like late 9 o'clock. My parents are super tired. They could have easily just cleaned the dishes themselves in half the time it took for them to teach me this skill. But I remember being called back into the kitchen, say, hey, this dish isn't clean. You need to learn to wash this. Instead of using your eyes, let's try using your hands. And I would just fuss and scream. I don't want to put my hands in this dirty dishwater. Like, it's gross. I don't want to have to feel the grime. But I had to learn how to use my other senses to be able to help me complete these tasks. And it took, and that's just a very small example. Yeah. It took my parents a lot of time. And what I noticed was that they were committed to the outcome of me being successful and independent, regardless of this circumstance that I was facing. So to all the parents out there, you're going to face challenges and circumstances as a parent. But whatever the case may be, starting from a standpoint of being committed to the outcome and the success of your child is going to be a game changer.
So that's really interesting. What you're telling me, and I mean, what a shout out to your parents. They expected you to be able to perform. So they had, they weren't just going to allow you to become a victim and have a pity party. There was very much that ingraining in you the sense of, you have to put the effort in, you have to put the work in, you have to keep going, you have to find a way to adapt to be able to create the outcome that you're looking for. I mean, that's a very good message to learn at a very early age, isn't it?
Yes, and I am grateful for my parents every day, even when I'm, dealing with circumstances that we all deal with, like, having to work and pay rent and, deal with things that are challenging. I really have this supernatural knack for overcoming these obstacles and just digging down deep and doing it anyway. I might be afraid, but I'm going to do it anyway. This might be time consuming and challenging, but I'm going to do it anyway. And that really stems from those experiences that my parents were stewarding throughout my childhood.
That's fascinating, because we often talk on this program about parenting and how important it is. And actually, your parents have sort of modeled a very interesting way of doing it. And it is fascinating to see that your parents expected much of you and came up with coping strategies and resilience and helped you do that. And there are many people without the condition you had who are sort of let off the hook by their parents, and they're allowed to fail, and they're allowed to become victims. They're allowed to have a pity party. And so, what's fascinating is that you live independently, but you went to high school and then on to university. So that's a hell of an achievement. That's an achievement for anybody. But when you're suffering with a condition such as yours, that must make the whole studying process so much more difficult. I mean, how do you cope with that?
Well, it was definitely challenging, and just starting off in that grade school kind of era. I remember it took me probably about 4 or 5 times as long as it did to do my homework than it took my twin brother. Yeah. So, so I just remember that was, very challenging, while the other kids are just outside playing, and I'm like in this doing homework for hours and hours and hours. I was like, this feels so unfair. Yeah, well, but of course we get past that, and that's very just microscopic. But going on to college, undergrad, grad school, I got my bachelor's and master's degrees, and I just said, hey, I'm going to do this, and I figured out a way to do it. And I've met people who they don't have a visual impairment or any kind of disability, but they decided they go to college and things get challenging and hard and they quit. And it's okay to change courses, change direction. But what I've noticed is that the people who excel in the midst of adversity, again, they start off being rooted in commitment.
Yeah.
And, even for the people, I've got friends who they decided, hey, college is not for me at this time. And they're still going on to live their purpose. And then there's others who just drop out completely just because it's hard. And I found really the difference there is the root. They're rooted in purpose, they're rooted in commitment, and even the ones who change direction, they're still following through with their original purpose and vision for their lives. They've just simply changed direction. But it all starts from being committed to the finish, committed to the outcome, committed to the purpose.
And that's fascinating, isn't it? Because there are many people in the corporate world even who you'll ask them, well, how did you end up where you were? And they say, oh, it was all just casual, it was luck. And and I say, well, where are you going next? And they say, well, we don't know, we'll drift along. And I don't think they really get, because it is hard to understand that they're sort of leaving a load of potential on the table. And and the thing, of course, is that if you're happy, that's fine. But of course, a lot of those people aren't happy. They're quite miserable about and discontented. And so I love that talk about vision and purpose. I think that's so important, and it's a part of resilience to have a sort of an idea of what you want, and actually being compassionate enough in yourself to get what you want, and actually not be worried all the time about giving other people what they want. That's important, isn't it? And I love what so you've had to do that in your life. And I love what you've done in terms of turning that into the powerlifting side of your story. So tell me about that.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So I lifted on the powerlifting team in college at my undergraduate university, and got to compete in 2 national competitions and a world competition. And that was a lot of fun. I remember in, just growing up, middle school, high school, that sort of thing, always feeling like I wanted to be a part of a team. But of course, most sports are very visual, right? Basketball, soccer, football, and not really adaptable for people with visual impairment. So I often felt very left out, in that I didn't get to explore that particular side or that particular realm of me. And so this was just the perfect opportunity for me to be on a team, for me to compete, but also for me to develop not just the outer strength, but the inner strength. Like, yes, I can do this. I can overcome my fears. I can overcome any limiting beliefs. I can push past that and accomplish this goal. So it was a great decision, and I'm really grateful for that experience. I'm glad you brought that up, because undergraduate was quite a few years ago, and I don't get to really remember and talk about that particular aspect. So it helped me develop a lot of inner strength and have the experience of being a part of a team. It was a great time.
I do. It's remarkable. It's very interesting what you say there. And that learning to be part of a team is so important for people, isn't it? That idea of winning and losing is an important part of life's experience. And it's also that folk. And I also think that, people who have done some sort of sport, dance, music, at any sort of, a high level, it teaches a mental discipline, doesn't it? And it teaches a way of thinking and adapting and coping. And you're talking about, you're someone who walked into this with a track record in dealing with adversity, but there are a lot of people in the world who only ever find themselves when they've gone into things like sport. And I notice you're doing kickboxing now as well. You're a fierce lady. I'm going to keep out your way.
Yeah, I definitely have a lot of fun. That's for sure.
So it's fascinating. So I'm really, it's fascinating that you do that. So, and of course, I am looking at your website, so I'm cheating here a little bit, but I'm seeing a picture of a cute dog with a big nose. And, is this your number one pal?
Yes, absolutely. I have so blind people have pretty much two options of mobility. That's either a long white cane or a seeing eye dog. And so I use both. The seeing eye dog is definitely the cuter option, and she does have a big nose.
Lovely.
Yeah. She's a beautiful Black Labrador Retriever named Della, and she's actually sitting at my feet right now. So she's been very helpful. I live in a big city, a small city, but very big. It's San Francisco, so it functions as a big city with trains and buses and busy sidewalks. So having a seeing eye dog has been like the perfect way for me to be able to get around independently.
Brilliant. And so obviously you talked about workshops and training, but tell me about the coaching and tell me about the charity that you founded as well, if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. So coaching is definitely one of my all-time favorite things. I love to coach people one-on-one. Health is my background, as you could probably notice from all the different health activities that I participate in at all times. But my master's is in health education, health promotion. So quite naturally, a lot of people come to me for health coaching, but most of my clients, they come to me for that life coaching, for really that transition and transformation coaching, to get from one phase of their life to the next. So really, I'm like world's best cheerleader.
Right.
And an adversity engineer. That's kind of the title I've given myself, is Chief Adversity Engineer, because I really have a knack for navigating challenging circumstances. So when my clients come to me and they've got this huge goal of wanting to start a company or run a business or make a transition in their lives, I really walk alongside them and help them really tactfully and gracefully and powerfully engineer any sort of adversity or challenge that might come up for them, so that they can get from point A to point B and get to that transformation, make it through that transition as they continue to move forward. So I love one-on-one coaching so much. It's been powerful, and my clients are just like making incredibly bold moves in this world and major impacts. So it's a wonderful thing.
That's fantastic. And what's the charity? What's the charity that you're involved with?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am also the founder of a nonprofit called Canes for Christ, and we equip blind children all over the world with the tools they need to live life boldly in Christ. And so that looks like we take mission trips to other countries, and we actually get to put a cane in the hands of children who are blind for the very first time. And it's the most amazing experience that I've ever had in my life, actually, is handing a blind child a cane for the very first time and teaching them how they can use it to access independence and freedom in their environment, so they can go on to be a bold world changer as well. So we're really just raising up a generation of blind children who are going to make a big impact in the world.
Fantastic. You're doing great work. I really think it's absolutely brilliant. And your site's, oozing with brilliant testimonials and such like. So, you're someone that probably, needs to be talked to and, talked about a little bit more, because obviously you've got a really interesting story and a fantastic message here. And if people want to get hold of you, Amber, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my favorite things is just obviously I love to hear people's voices. Sure. Sure, that means a lot to me, and it's just such a great way to connect. So if you find me on Facebook or Instagram, it's just my name, Amber Kierra, AmberKierra. You can find me on Facebook or Instagram. Send me a voice message. And alternatively, if you're interested in one-on-one coaching at all, or just want to find out more about that, I would love to just offer up a complimentary 30-minute connection call with me. And I can just hear what's on your heart, hear your story, hear where you are and where you'd like to be, and just explore that together and make a meaningful decision as to what that could look like. So just all in all, thrilled to be here, and I would love to connect with everyone who is listening, because that is just the most precious thing to me, is to hear someone's voice and be able to share in their story.
Amber, that is brilliant. So, and also you have a website, Amber Kierra, which is ambersname.com. So you can also catch her there. Thank you so much for spending time with us today, Amber. You've got a fantastic story. It is amazingly inspirational. And, I metaphorically and literally, I can't take my hat off to you literally, but metaphorically will take my hat off to you, because you're a real inspiration. So thank you for spending time with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on.
You take care. Hi everybody, I hope you found that episode useful and interesting. Feedback is always welcomed, and if you are in the mood to subscribe to us or even leave a comment on iTunes or Stitcher, that would be amazing. If you want to suggest ideas or even people you would like me to interview, then reach out to us at qedod.com/contact. As I said earlier, you can go to qedod.com/podcasts for show notes or follow the links. And you can go to qedod.com/extras to access offers, tools and resources, including free articles and ebooks. For those of you that would be interested in supporting our work and contributing more proactively, you can find our new Patreon page at patreon.com. Then search for Resilience Unraveled. I look forward to being in your ear next time around. Take care.